Alright guys, so today we're going to be making a knife. I have made maybe like 14 knives and it's been a couple months since I've made one, so we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to start. I've just drawn out a pattern here. You can make your own or get one offline. This is just some old tool steel. You could use like a circular saw blade, anything like that, or you can buy it offline. So I'm just going to line this up here where I think I want it. And now I just have some small magnets here I'm going to use to hold this down. So now I'm just going to take my Sharpie and trace around the whole thing. Just finishing up here. Got that done. I'm just going to take all the magnets off. That comes free. See, we have our pattern there. Now we're just going to start by cutting that out, maybe leaving most of the black there. So we'll do the rest on the belt sander, just trying to get the rough cut out here. Okay, now we're going to start cutting it out. I have a little C-clamp here just to make sure that my metal's not going anywhere here. I'm going to put on safety glasses, and I'm going to be wearing some gloves here just to protect myself. And I have angle grinder here, thin disc on it, makes it go quicker. Now we're going to start grinding. Alright guys, so we have this roughly cut out. Make sure to dip it in some water, cool it off, and I have a bucket of water under here so all the hot sparks will go into that, and I will dip this in there just to keep it cool and stuff. And we're going to come right down to the inside of our Sharpie lines here using a 36 grit belt. This is first time I've used a belt this aggressive. I guess we'll see how that goes. So let's get grinding. Alright, so we got it all cleaned up. Now we need to clean the faces of it, so I'm going to go ahead and take the table off here. And I'm going to switch the belt to an 80 grit belt. Alright, got that changed. I have this magnet bar here, and I'm going to take our blade and stick that on there like so. And now I'm just going to hold on to my magnet bar here and sand this down. So we got that all shined up on both sides. Got a little bit here, but it's flat. It's not rust, just more of a stain, and that's going to be under your handle, so that should be okay. I'm going to go ahead and just clean up all these edges on the 80 grit. Alright, all cleaned up there. Alright, so the first step of grinding our bevels is going to be marking our center line. So to do that, I'm going to take the Sharpie and I'm going to mark all the edge of the blade there, get it all black, coated in the ink there. There we go. Alright, so now we need to scratch our line in that. You can use like an 1/8 inch drill bit, because that's what I'm working with anyway, about an 1/8 inch of material here. But I have this here, and I've got a little sharp piece coming out there at about 1/16 of an inch, so that should get close to the center of our blade. So I'm just gonna scratch it, flip it over, trying to get that line scratched in there. Now I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, but there is a center line there. Alright, so we got it set up here. I have it on a piece of angle iron. Have this little screw threaded through here a certain distance. It's just holding me at an angle. Got a C-clamp holding my blade on here, and I have a 60 grit belt on here. This is fresh, and we're going to see how this goes. Got the bevels ground, pretty happy with my lines there. It's looking pretty good so far. Now I'm just going to mark out where I want to drill for my handle pins. So, I'm just doing 2 on this one. So probably something like there. And if you're really particular, you can measure this up and get these centered and stuff. But I just kind of wing it. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Something like that. The top of our handle scales, I think, are going to come something like that. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So now we're going to go drill these out. Alright guys, so we have our blade here. We're getting ready to drill the holes in it. So I'm just going to start on this one here. I have a 3/16 drill bit that I'm going to be using. So let's get started. Alright, got both those holes drilled. Now I'm going to line up the scales where I want them, and I'm going to drill the holes through all 3 pieces at the same time to line everything up. Alright, so I've got that all clamped together the way I think I want it. Now I'm going to just drill down through on this hole. Alright, so we drilled all the way through the one side, put a 3/16 drill bit through there just to hold all that even, clamped it, and now I'm going to drill the second hole. Alright, so we got our knife here. We're getting ready to quench, so we need to get the forge on. Just going to take some paper here, crumple it up a bit, stick it in there, get a match. I'm going to light this and then turn the gas on once I have a flame in there. There we go. Let the flame move back a little bit. Then I'm just going to turn it on. Alright, so we got that quenched. I think it went pretty well. Wiped it off there. Just quenched it in some vegetable oil. Now I'm going to take the file. You can hear how it skates. That means we got it pretty hard. I think that's pretty good. Now, I probably should have done this before I quenched it, but I forgot. We need to file in our little notch there. Alright, so I have a round file here, and I'm just going to be grinding in the little choil there. Like I said before, probably would have wanted to do this before the heat treat, but I forgot, so I'm going to try to do it now. Okay. Wow. So definitely remember to do that before you heat treat your blade, because that was incredibly hard to do. On the good side, I must have got it very hard though, because this file does absolutely nothing to it. Alright, so I've got the bench grinder here, and I'm just going to, at least on the handle, buff it a little bit. Try to get some of the scale stuff off from the heat treat. So let's do that. Alright, so that's what we got. Cleaned it up a bit. I think it's looking pretty nice. I might even just leave that as the finish. Just buffed down there. Gonna have to do it one more time after the temper though, because that's gonna add a golden hue to it, so we're gonna want to take that off. Alright, so we're just gonna turn our oven on and set that to 400. And we're gonna just place our blade in the oven, and we're gonna leave that in there for 2 hours. Alright, so I have a 3/16 brass rod here. I have 2 lines on it where I'm wanting to cut. Just need 2 pieces for our handle. I'm gonna put gloves and safety glasses on and cut this out with the angle grinder. Alright, so you have our 2 little pieces of brass rod. I have a 120 belt on here, and we're just going to take off the sharp edges and round it a little bit so they'll just slide through the holes easier. There we go, have the edges rounded off on those. Now we're going to start working on our handle scales. Alright, so we got our pegs in there and our 2 handle scales, so they're held the way they're supposed to be on the knife. And I'm just going to take this and round it down like so, and then put bevels like that at angles on there just to clean that up where the handle scales are going to meet the blade, because we won't be able to sand that down easily once the blade is put together. And I'm just doing this with a 120 grit belt. Alright, so I got that taken down the way I want. I've got the bit of a curve there, the bevels on these, but this was on a 120 and we want that to be a lot smoother, so I'm gonna work my way up on grits to get that to maybe like a 400. Alright guys, so I got this sanded to 400 and I tried buffing it a little bit. If I would have known how these handle scales were, I probably would have got a different kind. They get slightly warm, they seem to want to melt, so I don't know how great this is going to turn out. But for right now, I'm going to take these apart, take the pegs out, and I'm just got a flat surface here, and I'm going to sand on a 150 just the insides of these to make sure they're flat and roughed up a little bit so the epoxy will grab hold. There we go. Got both those sanded down. Next step is going to be rough cut these out. So we'll do that next. Alright, so the blade is done tempering. I just left it how it was out of the temper. I kind of like the dark color. Probably going to leave it like that. I think my oven went a little over 400. It got more like, when you heat up metal, there's a few different colors. You got the golden color first, and it goes to like dark blue and purple. Mine got kind of to a purple, which means it might have got a little hot. Might have lost a little bit of its hardness. Not sure. But we are now going to do the rough cut on our handle scales. And I just put the blade on the pins there So it's all held together like so. Just going to take Sharpie and just go around the edge and just mark where I need to cut. There we go. Pull the blade off. I have a line there. I'm just going to cut close to it, probably not right on it because we can always sand down. We don't want to mess anything up here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. Alright, so we're ready to glue things up. Got the rough shapes cut out of these. Got our pins and stuff. Just going to be using a 2-part epoxy. This stuff is pretty cheap. You can get better brands. This is just a 5-minute epoxy, so I'm going to have to work pretty fast here. And let's get started. Alright, I'm gonna maybe try to just clean some of this epoxy off. There at the edge of the blade, just make sure to get it all cleaned off. I'm just gonna let that dry. Alright, so it's been about an hour. Gonna take the clamps off. Now you can see how the tape is still a little bit there. I'm going to take that off with a razor blade, and then we're going to cut the bulk of these pins off and then start shaping our handle. Alright, so now I'm just going to grind off the pins there, put on safety glasses, gloves, and cut those off. Alright, got the pins ground off there. I just have a paper towel and some masking tape to protect my blade. And I have a 60 grit belt to start getting the rough shape. So let's get with it. I just have a 220 scalloped J-Flex belt to do some of the more minor details, rounding and stuff on this. Alright, so I got it to where I want, I think, on the 220 J-Flex scalloped belt. I didn't know quite what to do here because you got the dark blade, but then you're sanding here, so I ended up giving it a clean edge down the whole thing. But it's dark here, I don't know, it's a little weird. I think I'll leave it that way though. I like the grain pattern we got with the handle scales there. It turned out better than I thought. Nice contrast with the pins. Feels pretty good in the hand. I think I'm going to do a little hand sanding in here with some higher grits. And then I'm gonna try buffing the whole thing up and see how that goes. Alright, this is how the knife is looking after I did a little hand sanding and buffed it up. It's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to do my secondary bevel here just to actually get the edge, because right now there is no edge. I'm going to do that on a 400 grit. Alright, so right off the 400 grit we're going to see how sharp it is. The potential is there. But it's still really not that sharp. So I'm going to go take this to a stone and hopefully get it sharper, and then we will be done. Alright guys, so just got the whetstone here. This is 3000 grit, I believe. We're just going to take some passes with the knife here, see if we can get it any sharper. I haven't done a lot of sharpening, so might not get a perfect edge on this, but we'll see how it goes. Just going to dry that off. Flip my stone over. So now this is 8,000. Alright, so I got it a little bit sharper. Still not amazing. Not too bad, but definitely could be sharper. But I think I'm calling that good. That's how it turned out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.